Hello, welcome to AIM community. What do you mean by Upadrava? What do you mean by Nidanarthakara Roga? What do you mean by Udarka? What is the relation between Kriyakala, Upadrava, and Udarka? These are the questions that an Ayurveda student, specifically a Roga Nidana student, come across whenever he studies the subject as such. In this particular video, we are going to discuss the concept of these uh, in a better manner so that we can understand or we can have a deep dive understanding of these particular concepts. When you think about the concept of Upadrava, several descriptions are available in the Ayurveda textbooks. We are going to summarize those different informations. Among these, the first and foremost aspect regarding the popular description, Vyade Rupariyo Vyadi Bhavati Uttarakalajah Upakrama Avirodhi Chasa Upadrava Uchyate. This is the definition of Upadrava. Vyadhe Upariyo Vyadi Bhavati Uttarakalajah Upakrama Avirodhi Cha. So here three different terminologies are there. Vyadhe Upari Yo Vyadi Bhavati Uttarakalajah, second description, and third is Upakrama Avirodhi Cha. These are the three terminologies that is helping us to know about the Upadrava. Vyade Upariyo Vyadi. That means already a person is suffering from a pre-existing disease or illness. He will be developing another illness after the manifestation of this particular disease. And Upakrama Avirodhi. And this particular secondary manifested disease is not producing any kind of the what to say that the complications, any kind of the discomfort to the patient while giving the treatment as such. So this is what we can say the Upadrava as such. Whereas the another definition of Upadrava, Upadravo Rogarumbaka Doshajanyo Anya Vikara Upadrava. That is the Rogarumbaka Dosha. That means the disease which is manifested by the vitiated dosha, the same dosha that will be responsible for the manifestation of the disease, another disease that is termed as Upadrava. The Charaka Samhita says, Upadravastu khalu rogottara kalajo rogashrayo roga eva stulo anurva rogat paschajayati Upadrava samyaha. So that is the Upadravastu khalu rogottara kalajo. So that is which is going to get manifested after the manifested disease, prognosis. So that is which is mainly depending upon the pre-existing disease. Sometimes the same disease in the full-blown manifested form that is termed as Upadrava. There are of two categories, Sthulo Anurva, Sthula Upadrava and Anu Upadrava. In general, Rogat Paschajayata, which is going to get manifested after the manifestation of the primary disease, that is being termed as Upadrava. This is also being termed as Anubandha. So, Charakavimana says, Tatra Anubandhyo, Anubandha Krito Vishesha, Swatantro, Vyaktalingo, Ethokta Samuthana, Prashamo Bhavati, Anubandhya, Tad Viparita Lakshanastu Anubandha. Whereas Anubandha refers to which is Paratantra. So, that is which is depending upon the main disease for the manifestation. And Vyakta Linga, so that is Anubandhya, whereas Avyakta Linga, that is unclear or the no clear-cut manifestation of the Lakshana, Yathokt Samuthana Prashamo, Ayathokt Samuthana Prashamo. Samuthana refers to the Nidana, Prashama refers to the submission. The as described in the text, the Samuthana, that is the Nidana and its Chikitsa, are not being mentioned in case of the Anubandha. So that is considered to be the Upadrava as such. Whereas, to summarize that, Upadrava that will be observed in the patient either along with the main disease or after the main disease. Sometimes it can be the disease itself, as you have discussed earlier. It is also being termed as Anubandha, and it is also being termed as Nidanarthakara Roga. So that is depending upon the nature of the description, we can say. Two types are there, Sula Upadrava and Anu Upadrava, as we have discussed earlier. this particular Sthula Upadrava and Anupadrava, they are depending upon the Roga Bala and Rogi Bala. If the Roga Bala is more than the Rogi Bala, then that may be responsible for the Sthula Upadrava manifestation. Whereas if the Rogi Bala is more than the Roga Bala, then there may be a possibility of Anu Upadrava manifestation. This is the one category of Upadrava as such. Whereas second category of Upadrava, that is what we can say Nidanarthakara Roga. So here the description says the Nidanarthakara Roga, that is already the disease when it is considered to be a Nidana for the manifestation of another disease. The main use of Nidana is such, that is the understanding of that is the identifying the disease manifestation in the individual. Based on that, there are two categories, Ekarthakari and Ubhayarthakari, depending upon the absence and presence of the main disease respectively. In the sense, if the person is having the presentation of the Upadrava or the secondary disease in the absence of primary disease, that is being termed as Ekarthakari as such. Whereas the presence of the main disease along with the subsequent disease, that is termed as Ubhayarthakari Nidanarthakara Roga. So that is the again two types. If the primary disease is present along with the secondary disease, that is Ubhayarthakari. If primary disease is absent along with the secondary disease, that is considered to be Ekarthakari. Let us learn about this in terms of the timeline as such. Suppose the person on day 1 he is exposed to Shita Sevana, in the sense cold exposure. So that is indicative of the initiation of either there may be a possibility of Vata Dosha Prakopa or there may be a possibility of Kapha Dosha Prakopa, because Shita Guna is considered to be a quality of Vata as well as Kapha Dosha. Depending upon the nature of the exposure, there may be a possibility of Pranavaha Srota subflexion. There may be a possibility of Annavaha Srota subflexion. There may be a possibility of Rasavaha Srota subflexion. There may be a possibility of Bahya Srota subflexion. Maybe the nose, maybe the eyes, or maybe the ears, etc. There may be a possibility of affliction of these may be possible. In that particular situation, so Upadrava may be related to either Pranavaha Srotas or Annavaha Srotas or Rasavaha Srotas, or there may be a possibility of affliction of Bahya Srotas also there may be observed. For example, if the person is exposed to Shita Ahara Sevana, naturally it will be associated with the affliction of Pranavaha Srotas, to some extent Annavaha Srotas also. If the person is exposed to Shita Vata Sevana, it is Pranavaha Srotas affliction may be dominant, but Annavaha Srotas affliction may not be that much evident. If the person is residing in the AC room of less than 16 degrees centigrade, in that particular situation, the Shita Guna exposure will be to the Tvak itself. In that particular situation, Rasavaha Srotas affliction may be observed. Or if the person is what do you say, that the entering or the traveling in the cold atmosphere and he is not wearing the eye sunglasses or the glasses as such, the spectacles, there may be a possibility of affliction of this exposure to Shita quality air to the eyes. In that way, depending upon the nature of the exposure, the person may develop the Upadrava. So here, the subsequent days, there may be a possibility of Upadrava related to Shita Guna only, because he is exposed to Shita Guna substances at the beginning. So in turn, there may be a possibility of Sroto Mula affliction also in due course of time. For example, if the person is taking the Shita Guna air through the nose, that means there may be a possibility of affliction of a Pranavaha Sroto Mula. Text says Pranavahanam srotasam hridayam moolam mahasrotascha. There may be a possibility of affliction of either hridaya or mahasrotas in due course of time. This is what we can say the concept of Upadrava as such. Let us summarize the concept of Upadrava. Whenever you are going to say the person is suffering from Upadrava, that has to be same Srotas affliction should be observed in due course of time. Suppose if the person is suffering from Rasavaha Sroto Vikara, in due course of time the person may be presented with Rasavaha Sroto Vikara itself. Or otherwise, if the person is suffering from Pranavaha Sroto Vikara, in due course of time, there may be a possibility of affliction of Pranavaha Srotas itself. And the second main thing, that is Sroto Mula affliction may be observed. So that means if the person is suffering from Pranavaha Sroto Vikara, there may be a possibility of the Mahasrotas or Hridaya affliction in due course of time. Sooner or later, the person may be having the affliction of this Sroto Mula. Third major thing, that is subsequent dhatu affliction may be observed. That means if the person is suffering from Rasavaha Sroto Vikara, in due course of time there may be a possibility of affliction of Rakta Dhatu itself. In that way, the Raktavaha Srotas affliction may be observed in due course of time. This is what we can say the concept of Upadrava. And when you think about the Udarka, it is being mentioned that Udarkam Uttarakarina Phalam. So that is Chakrapani Charaka Sutra 25th chapter 36th shloka. So that is any kind of the subsequent sequel or events of any particular Nidana that is being termed as Udarka. Suppose the person is exposed to one particular Nidana. So that may lead to some kind of the changes in the body. That may be the first event. And that will be leading to the next sequel in the body. That may be a second event. So like that, we need to identify the sequels of the earlier exposure as such. So that is what we can say the Udarka as such. And when you think about it, here is an image. Hefty individual, and he is in the cold atmosphere. In that particular situation, consuming ice cream, that means it is having the Shita Guna. So that is resulting in the Kapha Dosha vitiation. That is happening in the Mahashlokas. In that way, the consumption of ice cream in this particular situation may be Ahita Udarka, whereas consumption of hot herbal tea in this particular occasion may be considered as Hita Udarka. When you think about the mechanism of Udarka, suppose there are an individual is having the consumption of three different nature of the food substances. Suppose at 1 p.m. he is going to consume Shitala Ahara Sevana. At around 1:10 p.m. he is going to consume Ushna Ahara Sevana. At around 1:20 p.m. he is going to take around Shitala Ahara Sevana. In that particular situation, the initial Shita Guna substance, so that means that may lead to diminution of Agni itself. So that means that may lead to the hampering of secretions of hydrochloric acid and digestive enzymes. The reason is the secretion of these are being present near the pyloric antrum. Because of that, that will be leading to the hampering of the functioning of Agni. Whereas after a matter of 10 minutes later, he is going to take Ushna substances. Of course, this may lead to the totally disturbed functioning of the stomach or amasha itself, because these are responsible for the diminution of kapha in the body. Further, he is going to take the Shitala Ahara Sevana, so that may again lead to the shrinking of the cells of the stomach. Thereby, there will be reduced secretion may take place. That may lead to the decrease of clay datta as such. In that way, the consumption of these substances that may have an totally a different the functioning. Initially, that may lead to Kafakshaya and Vata Vriddhi, Pittakshaya may be there, whereas subsequent consumption of Ushna Guna substances may lead to increase of the Ushna Guna in the body, but that may lead to the decrease of the Kapha as such, whereas Shita, that may lead to the increase of the Vata dosha may take place, thereby there may be a possibility of Kapakshaya there. In that way, the nature of the food substances, the timing of the food substances may have an impact on the disordered functioning of uh, the human body cells. Whereas this next example, the person is going to take the Ushna Guna substances first. Then he is going to do Shita Guna substances. Then he is going to do Shita Guna substances later. So here, that may enhance the Agni, functioning of Agni at first. But later, that may lead to the diminution of functioning of Agni. Thereby, the person may have the delayed digestion that may take place in the Amashaya, or what we can say the stomach. This is how the mechanism of Udarka can be understood. Now, what is the difference between Kriyakala, Udarka, and Upadrava? When you think about the Kriyakala, there are 6 stages: Sanchaya, Prakopa, Prasara, Sthana Samshaya, Vyakta, and Bheda. Whereas the Udarka refers to the whole the mechanisms, that is what we can say the Udarka itself. From Sanchaya to Prakopa, it's a state of Udarka. Prakopa to Prasara, Udarka stage. Prasara to Sthana Samshaya, Udarka. Sthana Samshaya to Vyakta, it's an Udarka. Vyakta to Veda, it is an Udarka itself. Whereas the Upadrava, they are usually we are going to observe in case of the Veda Avastha. So, in other words, the main difference between Upadrava and Udarka, they are all Upadrava can be Udarka, but all Udarka need not be Upadrava. To say that the person is suffering from cough, initially it will be watery sputum, then he is having the whitish color sputum, then he may develop yellowish colored sputum, then he may develop greenish colored sputum, then he may develop reddish colored sputum. Later, when the person is having, this is the Udarka as such, that is the different stages of the sputum as such. If the person is taking the medication as such, this may be in the reddish to greenish or yellowish, then to whitish colored sputum, then to watery sputum, then he may have only the dry cough may be present in the absence of sputum. So this is what we can see the what do you say that the Udarka as such. So here the Udarka in this particular occasion need not be life threatening. That's why all Upadrava can be a Udarka, but all Udarka need not be Upadrava. To sum up, Upadrava, Anubandha, and Nidanarthakara Roga, they are used as synonyms. They are usually manifests in the individual after the manifestation of primary disease. 2 types of the Upadrava are there, Sthula and Anu Upadrava. This is classified based on the Roga Bala and Rogi Bala, whereas the further 2 types, Ekarthakari and Ubhayarthakari, depending upon the absence or presence of the primary disease along with secondary disease. They are of 2 categories. Udarka, it is considered to be any sequel or any subsequent event that is going to take place after the exposure to a Nidana. Dear ANA community, that's all for today. What are the major key takeaways from today's discussion? Mentioned in the comment box below. What is the one video that you'd like to hear in the coming days in this particular channel? Mention in the comment box below and spread this particular video to maximum number of true Nidana learners so that we can make a huge movement out of the people a small message. That's all for today. Something more in the next video. Thank you.